As the new edge where connectivity, distributed cloud, and customer experiences converge, metro networks face traffic growth of 500%, that by 2027. Amid these conditions, operators can't sustain the current cost per bit of service delivery. Here to tell us how we can apply cloud principles to networks while enabling sustainable business growth with future-proof systems, architectures, and AI-enabled automation as a service are Telefonica's Diego Lopez. We also have Manoj Leelanivas of Juniper Networks. And last we have Terje Jensen, that with Telenor. And gentlemen, welcome to the program. So Diego, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to start with you. So how important is sustainability for your technology innovation strategy? And is it mostly in the charter of really corporate ESG, or has it become an important consideration for, let's say, vendor selection, product roadmap development, social responsibility, and of course, cost reduction?
Well, currently it's becoming more and more important and is part of normal procurement practices. We have we started the journey towards enhancing the sustainability in general long time ago when we started our program of network virtualization and softwareization. And right now we are addressing the different aspects of sustainability. In some cases, they are well advanced and they're very much connected to the, as I said, with the current practices. In other cases, we are still trying to evaluate how to apply or request the results of the evaluation of the different technologies we have made. So yeah, it's very important, and we are trying to apply as much as we are sure that we can request from our providers.
And Terje or Manoj, anything you want to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, if I may, so of course sustainability is a very wide area, I think. So it's addressing everything on social, environmental, and economic. So it's all about people, planet, and the purpose, I guess. So and within that there is a lot of different things. Exactly what Diego said. So that's both on the strategic level, of course on the executive levels. We have set targets, for example, on climate, what we want to achieve there. We have also set targets on the science-based targets, the SBT, and also the engagement with suppliers there. That means how many suppliers needs to be stating their targets there as defined by the UN, so on. So that's both on the executives and operational levels and it's very high. And then of course we are using like energy efficiency directly into the selection of partners. And also looking into, of course, what comes as part of the product roadmaps, both on the energy side, but also supporting AI and automation and all those aspects. So I think there's a lot of factors, and it fits typically the organization on a number of levels and different aspects. It's exactly what Diego said. I think the importance of this is growing, and you can just be in Barcelona, I think, for example, a couple of months ago, and say that everyone was talking about climate and sustainability.
Manoj?
Much like Diego and Terje said, I think Juniper Networks is also actually emphasizing a lot on putting a lot of sustainable focus on corporate social responsibility. And we have pledged carbon neutral commitments across global operations by 2025. Also, a lot of focus on SBTI, the science-based targets, and how we can do actually better than our goals. Additionally, if you look at our offices, Juniper office in Bangalore is nearly 100% solar powered. Headquarters is completely LEED certified. We're using 100% compostable materials for everything for product packaging, and a lot more efforts in sustainability will talk. So overall, it's a big focus for Juniper Networks.
So Terje, I know you just mentioned this on a sort of a 30,000-foot level, but can you go into a little more detail on the aspects of sustainability that you're focusing on really in this near term and long term?
Yeah, no, thanks, but I think we can go maybe to a couple of areas. And as I said, there are the number of areas and topics that are part of under the headline of sustainability. But one clear candidate, of course, is on the energy and the climate. So I think if you look into Telenor, for example, if I remember correctly, it's roughly 75 to 80% of our total emissions, which comes into the climate, is part of scope 3. So that means that all the what the suppliers are doing and what's happening there is very important to address as part of this. Then of course energy or all energy consumption is also very important. We'll probably come back to that later in the session as well. But roughly 90% of the total energy consumption in Telenor is related to the networks, meaning of course that consuming and all the efficiency we can do there will contribute to sustainability. And it's not only about energy efficiency of the existing equipment what we have in operation, but it's also quite important to phase out legacy systems, call it old systems if you want. So for example, we just decommissioned the copper network in Norway as one of the first incumbent operators actually to fully decommission that. You can immediately see that on the energy consumption. We also are switched off 3G, for example, in 3 out of our 8 countries, and we're also phasing out IT systems, for example, which are part of the legacy portfolio. So of course these kind of things are also contributing to sustainability and energy consumption in that sense. Then as part of the others, it's for example power purchasing agreements are important to address, which is then of course about the clean energy. And the last part, which is easily forgotten, is about circular economy or reusing equipment, recycling equipment, which is also a quite important part of it, and to make sure that all these rare metals, for example, are kept into the new delivery. So that's one part of which is more in the energy and the climate part of it. The other side of climate, we are of course also hit by as an operator, is, for example, raising sea levels, more floods, fires, and all those things, which is also important, which is probably the other side of the coin in a way that we need to start looking into that. And it's interesting to see that, for example, we are in Bangladesh, and for the ones who have been to Bangladesh, it's quite a lot of that country is close to the sea, so that there's a high risk for or impact from raising sea level, for example. But the same goes into Thailand, for example, and the Bangkok area there. So there are quite a few countries which are potentially at risk when the sea levels are rising, for example. So that's another aspect of course of climate, which is also then of course linked to sustainability. But of course, the whole optimization of the telco networks is another area which we probably are coming back to, and how we are redesigning and re-architecting the network in order to address this, which is basically around more the financial part of it on optimizing resources, as I said, and also customer experience as part of that. Then, of course, as I think you also raised earlier, Abe, on the innovation, there are a lot of engagement there, of course, on innovation and how to make the equipment smarter, and also how to manage and operate the equipment smarter. And I think there's someone coined the statement like if there are 0 bits, there should be 0 watts, which is not really easy to deliver on. But it requires quite a lot of innovation in order to try to get to that level. Meaning that if there is no traffic, there shouldn't be any energy consumed either. So there are quite a lot of things going on there. We're using automation and AI, for example, and also, of course, simplification of the whole setup, and definitely also working closer with partners in various aspects. I'm quite sure we will come back to some of these topics later in the session.
Absolutely. Manoj, back over to you, and Diego, if you want to respond to this, please do so. So we've been hearing a lot about Cloud Metro, the idea of really applying cloud principles to transform metro networks. Can you share a bit more on the details of how that really contributes to sustainability?
I can jump in. So if you look at the Juniper Cloud Metro solution, our focus is on sustainability in 3 different pillars. One is architecture, other is the actual systems that's being deployed in the network, and third is operations. So if you look at architecture, it's about resource sharing, which means that we can accomplish more with less. It's also about avoiding the resource duplication, reducing the number of devices. So if you look at architectural capabilities like network slicing, IP optical convergence, we accomplish both resource sharing as well as avoiding resource duplication, which in turn means we're reducing the carbon footprint or the carbon emissions. Second, if you look at systems, Optimized system design is always good, in terms of, reducing the utilization of power as well as space. For instance, according to the ACG research, the Juniper Metro Cloud solutions today consume about 70% less power and saves about 64% more space compared to a competitor solution. So longer shelf life means it also reduces e-waste. Again, good for the planet, good for the environment, and so on. Last but not the least, which is one of the areas which is a super interesting topic for us, which is that operations can be fundamentally changed with AI. In these days of ChatGPT and everything that's going on, Juniper has been, one of the pioneers of AI in cloud delivered operations. So AI and cloud delivered automation together can reduce the number of truck rolls required. No more worrying about problems. You can proactively solve problems. And in case when there are real problems that cannot be proactively solved, you avoid the truck roll by some of the automated operations. So, and also the next step is basically look at turning off parts of the systems, which are not being used. You have a large system, and in the nighttime, part of the system is not being used, can you shut it off? So there's a lot of effort and research we are putting in to make sure that this is possible today. So these are the three areas we focused on in the Cloud Metro solution, which is getting rave reviews from our customers and from analysts.
Well, speaking of customers, Diego, any comment on that?
Well, when it comes to this, there are two important aspects. When you connect clouds and the provision of services that are as close to the users as possible, because first of all, in those cases is when you have the highest density of equipment and where any savings or whatever the nature, we're talking about service on energy, or we're talking about savings in money, are more intensive, because simply the multiplication of the number of devices or virtual appliances by the number of users that you are serving is higher. And two things that the cloud-like approach brings is, on the one hand, is much better granularity on the decisions that you make with respect with whatever the sustainability. It's not the same that you have a big box that you have to switch on and off, and it's the only option that you have. Then what you have is a number of software pieces that you can decide to activate, deactivate, run under certain conditions, etc. This is one thing. The second thing that is important, and I'm not sure that we have mentioned this before, is about the possibility of taking advantage as well of circular economy approaches that allows you to reuse certain equipment or certain iron that otherwise would be decommissioned for certain services that probably are not so much demanding of a high performance in certain aspects, and that allows you to reuse and extend the lifetime of the physical elements that would require, of rare earths or materials that are costly in all terms to produce.
Terje, now over to you, and Manoj, if you want to respond to this, please do so as well. So edge cloud, new traffic patterns, and new partnerships are really all contributing to the sustainability objectives. So when you look at different parts of the networks, which part of that could have really the biggest opportunity to contribute to the sustainability objective, and why?
No, I think that's at least from how we see it as a network operator, access. I think Diego mentioned that as well. Access is clearly the main consumer of energy, clearly at least. So if I remember correctly, there was a GSMA study on this and from mobile operator, of course, and so they concluded that based on that input, of course, that the base stations, that means the radio part of it, typically consume something between 65 to 80% of the total energy of the network. So of course that will be the main part to try to optimize further on how to do this, and there are various ways to do that. I think Diego also mentioned it, but basically it's around trying to optimize, of course, the emitted energy that it hits or it reaches out to the relevant users in the most effective way, and then switch off other kind of either beams or spectrum plants, for example, or even equipment if that's needed. So optimizing base stations is clearly one of the things there. And there are, as I said, I think also Diego mentioned that there are AI algorithms to do that. For example, there are of course very important to phase out and shut off old equipment because in every kind of new generations, and this is not only 2G, 3G, 4G generations, but it's also about the radio and chip generations, comes with energy improvement. So it's important to have an eye on that. So of course clearly access, and then of course metro and aggregation are the main sources of energy. So what we are doing, of course, is that, as I said, there's energy optimization to look into, but it's also back to the question about traffic and how to steer and control and optimize the resources there. And I think also Diego mentioned that it's very important to, as we see it at least, to try to manage that as close to the source as possible. And then we are working with enterprises, for example, on the mobile private network and edge cloud, which are a couple of ways to handle the traffic local. And locally means, for example, could be on the premises, but it could also be local in the terms of regional. So we have some cases, for example, with commercially with enterprises where they are connecting quite a lot of high definition cameras, which they are then using for processing the video, for example, recognizing objects or recognizing people moving dangerous areas and so forth. And of course, these HD cameras generate several megabits per second, each of them. So when you have maybe a few tens of these cameras on a certain area, or even on a, say, for example, in smart port case on a single crane, and you have 20 cranes, for example, you can just do the mathematics yourself on how much traffic will come out of that. Then it's important to do this video analysis, for example, very local, meaning on the premises of the port, for example. So that's another example of trying to keep the traffic locally and to avoid that you are spending more resources from the network than we have to do. Because a reason for that is quite a lot of those video streams are actually not really containing any information. So we have people start laughing sometimes when I talk about a fish farming case we are doing, for example, where we're actually using cameras submerged into the water to recognize this fish, and it's actually a mandatory from the government requirements from the fish farms that they have to report the percentage of dead fish, for example, and how many lysis there are on each of the fish as an average. And this they have to do regularly, and typically so far they have done this manually, meaning lifting the fish out of the sea, starting counting and so on. So you can do this automatically, and of course a lot of these video frames are not really containing the information you need. So you just need to throw away more than 99% actually of the video information. So it will be really a waste to carry all those video frames, say, into the central site and then throw away the information. So just a simple example on the traffic and resource optimization. I think Diego also mentioned that. So it's one of the key areas to how to manage this.
Manoj, anything to add?
Like Terje mentioned, I think things have changed in the last decade or so. Before the last decade, the traffic patterns were such that the backbone or the core of the network was where the majority of the traffic was. And to the point which was discussed earlier, as more and more things are moving towards the edge, the traffic now has increased in the access part of the network. It's in the radio access network, it's in the metro network. So with the traffic pattern shift, the focus on the radio access network as well as the access, metro network, to make it more energy efficient has gone up, because now in many ways, access is the new core or the new backbone. So that shift has happened, and a lot of focus is specifically on that. So I tend to agree with Terje and Diego that this is where the world is going, and that's where the focus is. The other part is, as you have more and more services being delivered out of centralized clouds, whether it's hyperscaler cloud or service provider edge cloud or whatnot, there is an increasing need for making sure that sustainability is front and center as we scale out these large servers and storage systems. And I think that's a big focus which many of our cloud provider customers are focused on, and we're supporting them.
So Diego, over to you, and you touched on this already, and Terje went into a little bit as well. So let's talk about the role that network automation plays, and how does AI ops and cloud delivered technologies really enhance these benefits, Diego?
Well, this kind of approach to sustainability, optimization, and the reduction of all the indicators that imply a cost in terms, especially in terms of energy, and to support these sustainability goals that we are talking about, require some degree of automation. Whatever we are talking about, I'm not personally. I'm not that sure that it needs a very high degree of intelligence in many cases that we already have in the telco industry and elsewhere, mechanisms to apply automation loops that are not necessarily, that don't require the approach based on a neural network or a deep learning or whatever. In many cases, this can be done with simple automation techniques. I'm talking simple because, or let's say well-known techniques, in which what we are applying is basically an algorithms or algorithmic approaches, or in the most complicated cases, some kind of heuristics by rules provided by experts, etc. It's true that there are decisions that more than decisions that there are problem spaces that we have not explored yet, and that AI allows us to consider this. So I would say, just to summarize, automation is essential. AI, to achieve the goals that we can foresee for the short term, probably AI is not so essential, but for sure it is worth exploring what AI can bring in the future to provide new solutions or to address behaviors that for us are, well, we are limited the same way that we are limited in other aspects, and we rely on the help of other intelligent systems or other intelligent beings like dogs, horses, or whatever.
Terje, anything to add to that?
No, I think, of course, from our side, we think automation is very, very important. So aiming for fully automated to the extent that can be done. Of course, there are typically, we are working in the physical business as well. There are always, or typically some equipment to be shipped requires typically some manual intervention and so on. But we are aiming for a fully automated all the processes, not only on technical side, but also on the financial and HR. So it's important not to forget about these processes. And it's also where the reason why we are doing it is that we see that the customers' expectations are changing. They are actually expecting us to deliver services quicker than before. So meaning that they need to support self-service, and a lot of these processes then, of course, needs to be carried out fully automatically through all the systems. So I think, and we also, of course, want to embrace and embed AI into all the steps where that is relevant. And I think that what Diego was also saying. So it needs to make a difference, of course. We all claim, of course, to be smart, but sometimes it could be, help to get some AI smartness into that to supplement our smartness. So and it's particularly when you talk about, processing a lot of data and information and finding patterns, which might not be easy to find with a simple eyes, for example. But but it needs to, of course, be a value from using AI. But automation, yes, of course, exactly what Diego was saying.
Manoj, anything you want to add?
I already touched the topic earlier on, AI and automation, how it helps to, reduce the carbon footprint by, reducing the truck rolls, turning off parts of the system which is not in use. It saves on energy and all of that stuff. But I want to also touch a different topic, which is, all of service providers today face a shortage of skilled staff. It's one of the biggest challenges as we are going through a very, sort of a aging technical workforce and the expectation to have more from the network. And with this change, automation and AI has a huge role to play. For example, you want to have your people your staff work on the smart work, right? So with respect to AI and cloud-delivered automation, can simplify many of the mundane work streams and frees up your valuable staff for more, creative creation, service creation projects. So that's one. The other part is AI and automation, will enable you to do things, have services up and running in minutes compared to hours and weeks before. So securely scale your stream and streamlining your workloads is actually accomplishable now with AI and automation. Last but not the least, I would always say that it's all about reducing the trouble tickets. At the end of the day, when you look at operations, it's not just the service, getting the service up and running, it's also about operating the network. And operating the network is where service providers run into the largest problems, sometimes from human errors, sometimes vendor errors, and so on. So if you can actually proactively use AI, where you can proactively solve the problems, when you know the problems before they happen, you actually save a lot on the operational efficiency. And at the end of the day, the end user experience is also enhanced. So that's an area which AI and automation can really help beyond sustainability.
So I wanted to finish the program with somewhat of a futurist question, and I'll start with Terje. We'll go over to Diego, and then we'll have Manoj wrap the program for us. So the question is this, Terje: as network sustainability is top of mind, or clearly now top of mind across the ecosystem, do you think the progress towards really a self-driving and sustainable network is moving at a pace that Telenor finds acceptable, and what can we do to accelerate this pace?
I think it's of course hard to say that it's fully acceptable with the speed of it, because so we would I think accelerate in that sense, given that of course we see automation clearly as one of the must do. But having said that, I think we have passed 70% of the process already automated, and we are using AI, for example, as we also referred to in the previous question, in a number of steps there. So it's not like we're starting with blank sheets in that. But of course, it's typically we start with automating some of the simpler processes, and some of the more hard ones are pushing a bit. So there are more to do there, and So I think it's very, very important to see that, of course, in automation, you need to really take an end-to-end view. So you are really automating the processes all the way from the customer engagement all the way to, as you said, I think it was mentioned, trouble ticketing and even being proactive. So you can even avoid outages, or at least maybe notify customers in advance that something is going to happen. And so it's very, very important that we manage to get to those level, and to do that, it's of course it's still quite a lot to do, I think, in particular when it comes to the engagement and the proactiveness. And the reason why we need to move in that direction is, as I said before, is that the customer expectations are changing quite a lot. They are moving beyond this. You just deliver a SIM card and some coverage and some basic mobile connectivity, to actually they have a request for enjoying the service in terms of experience. They want a complete solution. They want to trust it, and there are quite a few elements that need to be in place in order to match the customer experience in that sense. And then of course it should be delivered instantly and also personalized, which again is actually asking for automation clearly to do this. So I think there requires quite a few other steps there to do. And I think one of the challenges we see is that, of course, there are typically a number of partners or suppliers who needs to come together to cover the real end-to-end scope here, meaning that there needs to be interoperability across different partners, and meaning also that, for example, say an information models needs to be understood in the same way. And as an industry, I think we are still have a bit to go there to harmonize even the understanding of information modeling and what is the value what is the understanding of different KPIs, for example, from different equipment. So clearly there's still a way to go there, I think, which we also would like to see, of course, that these are resolved in a collaborative manner within the industry, and also together with other industries. I think what we see that we need to collaborate with enterprises, for example, because, as I said, if we take, for example, private networks, then we are really delivering connecting sensors which are used for business critical processes in other industries. So you also need to play a part of their value chain, which then comes with their expectations on automation. So it's not only automation within the, call it the telco vertical anymore, but it's also automation across different industries. And this is just something I think we have quite a bit to go there in order to get to that level.
So Diego, Telefonica happy again with the pace of the sustainability objective at this point?
Well, in terms of I would say that in terms of the technology and the different technologies that we're trying to apply and the collaboration with our partners and customers on this, I would say yes. We are the technology is evolving in a way that is, well, I would say that's much better than acceptable. Taking into account that we're talking about very highly distributed, extremely pervasive infrastructures that you cannot change overnight. I mean, something that takes time because it takes time simply because we have to reach far places and making the changes there as well. In that sense, I believe that this is something that we are progressing well. Probably we could go faster. And but there are two aspects that Terje has mentioned that I think are very important. One is regarding going beyond simply applying automation or AI or whatever to networks and only networks, but the possibility of collaborating with other industries and the possibility of addressing some of the problems regarding sustainability of in general technology and industrial progress in the future with a holistic view. This is one thing, and this is very much connected to a term that now is being coined. Well, it's being mentioned once and again here, at least in Europe, in the several 6G flagship projects about going beyond connectivity when we're talking about networks. This is one thing. The other thing is the need for having a clear understanding of what we are measuring and how we are exchanging information among the different elements. And we're talking about automation, we're talking about the knowledge, in fact, we're talking about the AIs, etc., that are collaborating, how this is exchanged. And there is a third aspect that is, in my view, very much connected to this, and this is where we are not progressing well, as usual, which is when it comes to regulation. I mean, the telco environment is extremely regulated, and there is a problem, and right now that is becoming even worse because we are witnessing a progressive convergence of what has been in the past the line that separated the network from the IT. And right now we are witnessing a progressive convergence of cloud and network. And it's quite uneven that whatever it can be considered as cloud is totally, well, it's a brownfield when you can do whatever you want. And the other ones, whenever you call it a network, you are under a strict scrutiny, strict regulation. And what is worse is the general perception in the industry that there are steps that can be dangerous to be taken if you take them, just because you don't know how things are gonna impact from the regulatory side. I believe that regulation has to evolve much more accordingly to the technology evolution, has to be much faster and for sure much leaner as well to facilitate this progress.
And Manoj, to wrap the show, again, Juniper Networks' perspective on the sustainability objective and really the pace that it's moving industry-wide.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think the self-driving network is going to be a reality in a decade or so. And that is the mission for us. Make things easy, make sure end users have the best experiences possible. From an industry perspective, I think that should be the number one goal. So sustainability goes hand in hand with that, because if you look at what happened in the whole evolution of Uber or Lyft or whatnot, it actually, automation played a huge role. And automation and making it easy for people actually drove the benefits, which came through, employing a different set of folks instead of the traditional taxi drivers. The same kind of transformation is what's going to happen with the focus on sustainable networks, which is as long as the vendors are all subscribing to common APIs, which makes it easy for service providers to build systems around it. And then service providers can focus on leveraging ITSM systems, which are more common, rather than creating their own cookie cutter stuff. All of these will drive to more commonality, and more automation. As somebody said, anything that can be automated will get automated, right? And when that happens, and then you actually embrace things like the large language models, where more work can be done by machines, it automatically can help with the overall, energy efficiency and how we actually build systems. So to me, automation and AI ops goes hand in hand with energy and sustainability, because humans cannot do it by themselves. Humans need the help of machines, need the help of automation and AI ops, right? So leverage that. It's not an enemy, right? Because humans can focus on more higher work if the mundane work can be done by machines and AI. So, and the combination of the two will drive to more, sustainable goals as an industry. So I just want to touch that different angle to sustainability.
I remember in the past, when I say the past, I mean the last 5 years or so, that there were some high priority, sort of top of mind topics that we focused on, primarily around anything that can be monetized. But there were a couple topics that we didn't necessarily focus on. One of them was security, or network security, and now that's so much more top of mind, and we are talking about it as we should. And then the other one is energy efficiency and sustainability. So I feel like that's coming to the fore as well, as far as thought leadership and making it top of mind and top priority. So I wanted to thank all four of you for lending us your time. Diego Lopez with Telefonica over in Spain. I know it's a little bit later for you over there, but we appreciate your time and visiting with us and giving us your perspective.
We are fond of late evening, so that's it's okay. More than okay, and it was a pleasure.
We appreciate it. And Terje, always glad to have you on the program. We had you, as you mentioned, back in Barcelona a couple months ago in person, and now, of course, virtually. And then I'm sure next time we see you, we'll be in person again. So we appreciate your time as well.
No, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, David, and thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
We appreciate it. And Manoj, certainly great to have you on the program. We haven't had you before. Certainly Juniper Networks is a big supporter of the Network Media Group, but you in particular, we haven't had a chance to speak to you, so we appreciate your time. And I want to say a special thank you to Juniper Networks as well, and anybody listening on this session at the moment, that we appreciate your support, and wouldn't be able to do this session today without Juniper's support. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me on the panel.
Thank you, Manoj. And to our audience out there and our speakers on cloud, metro, and the future of sustainable networking for this session on demand, please go to thenetworkmediagroup.com. So long.